Hello, I am Sheila, a compulsive eater and your leader for this open meeting on the radio of the 12-step fellowship called GreySheeters Anonymous. Let's start the meeting with the serenity prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
This is an open meeting of the 12-step fellowship called GreySheeters Anonymous. Anyone affected by compulsive eating, overeating, and food addiction, bulimia, anorexia, or difficulty in maintaining a healthy weight is welcome to attend this open meeting. This may be you, someone you love, or someone you know. This meeting is designed to carry the message that there is a solution that works. We are in the studio today to illustrate what happens at a typical GreySheeters Anonymous meeting, where members qualify. Qualifying means telling what it was like, what happened to change it, and what it's like now in recovery from compulsive behavior around food. I'll read the preamble. GreySheeters Anonymous Preamble. GreySheeters Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from compulsive eating. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for GSA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. GSA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. GSA is not affiliated with KPFT. We are grateful for the opportunity to carry the message. Our primary purpose is to stay abstinent and help other compulsive eaters to achieve abstinence. Grania will read the GreySheet group purpose.
I'm Grania, compulsive eater. Each group of GreySheeters Anonymous has been founded and designed to discuss the fundamentals or basics of attaining and maintaining GreySheet abstinence. For that purpose, we explore together the utilization of the 12-step program in arresting compulsive eating. We strongly support the GreySheet food plan. We require that our meeting leaders be abstinent for at least 3 months on the GreySheet. We support a vigorous and positive attitude toward GreySheet abstinence, which we define as 3 weighed and measured meals a day from the GreySheet, with nothing in between but black coffee, tea, or diet soda.
Thank you, Grania. Page 17 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous states, the tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly harmonious action. That common solution for us is GreySheet abstinence. Grania will now share with you her experience, strength, and hope.
Thanks, Sheila. My name is Grania, and I am a compulsive eater. Thanks to the GreySheet program, I have been abstinent 1 day at a time since the 14th of September 1994, and that means that I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the GreySheet food plan. I turn them over to my sponsor, qualified because she has 90 days or more of back-to-back GreySheet abstinence. I eat those meals no matter what. I don't eat anything but what I've committed, and I do this without exception. I'm going to tell a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And I'm going to turn it back to Sheila at various points for station identification. So what it was like is that I believe that I was born a compulsive eater. I believe that what I've heard and learned in the GreySheet program is that some of us are bodily different from our fellows, and we react differently to sugars and grains. And like an alcoholic, we take sugar and grains and we react differently to them. So right from the beginning, I had a different relationship with food than all of my sisters, my family, and my friends. And I knew it was wrong. I knew that I, as a little girl, was not supposed to want to eat all the time. And so I began very early on feeling guilty and ashamed of my excessive interest in food, and I didn't talk about it. Because of the way I grew up, I didn't actually gain a lot of weight until I became a teenager. And after I hit puberty, I started gaining weight. So, and I also started becoming interested in romantic relationships. So my bodily appearance became really important to me. I became completely obsessed with how I looked. Whether I was fatter than you or smaller than you, or whether my thighs were too big, whether my stomach stuck out. And it completely obsessed me all through my teenage years. And so I spent the whole time when I should have been learning to get along with people and growing up in the world and studying and all of those things, I was completely distracted by trying to control my relationship with food, trying to control my weight. I didn't actually diet. I tried every single morning. I woke up and I thought about how can I eat normally today. But before I'd even eaten the first meal, I was already saying, I'll do it tomorrow. So every single day I woke up, tried to be normal around food, and failed. And so I had years and years of failure. And constantly fighting the food, constantly fighting the urge to eat. So my weight gain was gradual. I'm 5'5", and by the time I was 15 or so, I weighed 150 pounds. So I was chubby, but I wasn't obese, and the people around me didn't know I had a problem. When I went away to college and graduate school, I really lost all control. And my weight started to go up really fast. So that was when I started to panic and look around me for solutions. I'm going to turn it back over to Sheila for station identification at this point.
This is KPFT Houston. The current time is 9:38. I am Sheila P., and you are listening to Solution for Compulsive Eating on KPFT's Open Journal Community Spotlight. My guest is Grania M., and we're talking about GreySheet, a solution for compulsive eating.
So I was talking about my childhood years, my teen years, and the weight gain and the obsession with food. I went through my 20s basically repeating the same thing. I went through cycles of exercising compulsively and getting my weight down. I always thought that if I experienced normal weight and looked normal, that everything else would be okay. And even though a couple of times that actually happened, that I exercised myself into a normal body, it didn't change anything. I was the exact same person that I had been before, and as soon as I stopped exercising, the weight started to come back on again. So all through my 20s, my weight gradually increased. And I started in another 12-step fellowship for a different addiction. And I had never heard of the concept of being addicted to food or to eating. Really, all I was focused on was my weight. I really didn't realize it was about the food. And I started going to another 12-step fellowship and got clean and sober in that program. And after about 6 months of the clarity that came with the clean and sober life, I started to hear people talking about food addiction, particularly women in those meetings. They would talk about going to programs, 12-step programs for their food addiction. So the concept started to creep in. And I went to a 12-step fellowship for food addiction or for food problems, but unfortunately it didn't work for me. So I had a couple of years trying that program, and actually what really happened was the harder I fought my addiction, the harder I fought my disease, the worse it got. They say that addiction is a progressive disease, and really my disease progressed dramatically in those 2 years. And my weight was gradually going up, and I could not stop eating. I was eating extremely healthy foods, but I was eating all day long. So everybody has a different story with the food. When I came into these GreySheet 12-step meetings, I hear many different versions of obsession and compulsion around food. My story was that I grazed all day long. And so the weight started to go on, and I just got really scared, and I was about to give up. I was really about to just quit and die in the food when a woman arrived from out of town and shared her story. She said what I said at the beginning of my story, that she weighed and measured 3 meals a day from this GreySheet food plan, and it's called a GreySheet simply because when they first created it in 1962 in Los Angeles, the women who realized that these were the foods that we could safely eat, the cheapest paper to print it on was a GreySheet of paper. So our food plan ever since then, and our entire program, has been called the Grey, Grey, sheet. So she said she weighed and measured 3 meals a day from this GreySheet. She ate them without exception. She committed them to a sponsor, and she had been abstinent from compulsive behavior around food for 3 years without exception at that point, and it blew my mind. I had never met anybody who looked as good as she did and seemed as calm and as serene as she did, and who said that she hadn't had a compulsive bite or a compulsive behavior around food for 3 solid years without exception. So at that point I knew that I wanted whatever she had, and I asked her to start me off that very morning. The thing that was amazing to me was as soon as I wrote down the next 3 meals from the GreySheet food plan and committed them to her, not a thing had changed, but I felt like 1,000 pounds had been lifted off my shoulders. I floated out of that room. I felt like I had walked from the darkness into the light. I knew what she told me was there were hundreds of people all around the world who had been doing this without exception for years and years, that her sponsor had years of abstinence and their sponsors had years of abstinence. And so I knew there was no situation that I could imagine that somebody had not already gone through it and maintained their abstinence, and I had never found that before. So I felt so comforted and so safe, and I knew that I could just relax and follow this program one day at a time. So is it time for station identification, Sheila? Should I pause? I can't tell.
Yes. This is Sheila P., and GSA Solution for Compulsive Eating. We'll be right back.
This is Pacifica Radio, KPFT Houston. The time is 9:43. Here's a quick look at traffic and weather. There's a heavy truck incident on the 610 West Loop northbound at Bel Air Boulevard. The center lane is affected there. And on 59, the Southwest Freeway, outbound from the 610 West Loop to Hillcroft. The travel time is currently about 8 minutes, very slow at 12 miles per hour. Current temperature is 73 degrees. Skies are mostly cloudy, humidity 62%. And today's forecast for Harris County, partly cloudy in the morning, then clear with a 10% chance of precipitation. Today's high will be around 86 degrees and low tonight 70 degrees. Please stay tuned after the community spotlight for Bird Note, followed by Wide Open Spaces at 10 o'clock, and then the Heartbeat of Africa at 1 o'clock. And now back to today's spotlight, a solution for compulsive eating with Sheila and Grania.
Thank you. So this is Grania, and I'm still a compulsive eater, and I'm still abstinent by following the GreySheet food plan. And we are still here in this studio to share with you that there is a solution to compulsive behavior around food. And my particular compulsive behavior, as I was describing earlier, was grazing all day long and obsessing about my weight. And how I described how I found the GreySheet when one lone GreySheeter showed up in the town that I was living in at the time. But she told me there were hundreds of people around the world who were abstinent. They had been abstinent one day at a time, but every single day, continuously, back to back, without exception. And that gave me such hope. And I cannot tell you that it was easy in those early days. I remember what we call in the 12-step programs, we call it white knuckling it, where you grab the chair and you hang on with all your power because you want to eat, you want to use your substance, you want to check out of life. You want to distract yourself from what's going on in your life. But because I know that there are other people in this program called GreySheeters Anonymous who didn't eat when they felt that way, I knew that I could get through it too. And so I white-knuckled plenty of times in those first 6 months of weighing and measuring without exception. The magic of the GreySheet is that not only does it eliminate all sugars and all processed grains and carbohydrates, but it also gives you exactly what to do in every situation. So we know exactly how much of what foods to eat and when to eat them, and what to do if this happens and what to do if that happens. There is no situation where I have to make up the answer myself. In fact, abstinence is defined as not making up the answer myself, but calling a qualified GreySheet sponsor and following her directions. So I've traveled to India for 3 weeks abstinently. I've gone to Latin America and been stranded when 9/11 happened. I was stranded without food and had to figure that out. I lost my luggage in Costa Rica. I've had surgery. I've been sick. I've had tragedies in my family. I've traveled for business. I interviewed for jobs. I went on dates. All of those situations where you would think, how on earth am I going to weigh and measure my meals from this crazy food plan that eliminates sugar and carbohydrates without exception, no matter what? How am I going to do this under these circumstances? And if I pick up the phone and ask another GreySheeter, she will either tell me how she did it, or she will tell me how to find somebody who's done it. So that's how I've done it for the last 20 years, since September 14th, 1994. And what it's brought me is, so the first 6 months went by, and one day I woke up, I can't tell you exactly when, but one day I woke up and I realized I hadn't had an obsessive thought about food. I hadn't thought about the size of my thighs. I hadn't wished I was eating things that we don't eat on the GreySheet food plan. The obsession and the compulsions were lifted, and I had all this energy and time available in my life and serenity. I had no, all of these thoughts about how I was, I didn't belong here. I didn't deserve your positive attention, that I was a bad person, that I was a failure. All of those thoughts were gone because I had integrity around my food. I wrote down what I was going to eat. I committed it to a qualified sponsor, and I ate it. And then I was free to live this amazing life that has been granted to me and to you and to everybody else. I was free to live up to the potential and to become the woman I'd always wanted to be. That's what the last 20 years have been about. It's not about the food anymore. Weighing and measuring my food from the GreySheet is easy now. It's like brushing my teeth. It's like putting on my boots if it's wet outside. It's just what I do. But in between, I've been able to work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous that have allowed me to have a spiritual awakening, that have changed who I am and how I operate, and gives me great peace in interacting with people, and all of my relationships have improved. My relationships with my family, with my friends, with my colleagues. You know, I never thought my relationship with food had anything to do with my work. But before I got abstinent in GreySheet, I was practically fired from my first professional job. I was politely asked to consider getting another professional job. And since I've been abstinent, I've been with the same company for 20 years, and they recently asked me to take on a senior leadership position in the company. So it just tells you that putting the food down, putting the addiction away, has allowed me to become right-sized, as we say in the 12-step programs. I've become a worker among workers, a person among people. And I guess some people are probably interested in what happened to my body in abstinence. So when I came in, I thought I had a weight problem, and I'm going to turn it over to Sheila for a quick station identification.
Thank you, Grania. This is KPFT Houston. The current time is 9:51. I am Sheila P., and you are listening to Solution for Compulsive Eating on GreySheet on KPFT's Open Journal Community Spotlight. My guest today is Grania M., and we're talking about GreySheet, a solution for compulsive eating. Back to Grania.
Thanks, Sheila. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of being abstinent. And one of them is that I haven't had to think about the size of my body for 20 years. So I got a normal size body. I'm not a supermodel. I sometimes wish I didn't look my 51 years, but I never think about I don't think about the size of my thighs and how they compare to the size of your thighs and whether my stomach is sticking out anymore. I've gotten a normal, healthy body since I've been abstinent. And the other benefit is that the food on the GreySheet food plan, it's not packaged food that you have to buy specially. It's the food in the grocery store, a lot of which I'd never even heard of before I became abstinent. And I love my abstinent food. I get 3 delicious, abundant, fabulous meals every single day. No matter what goes on in my day, I know there is always another fabulous, delicious, gorgeous abstinent meal coming, and it's all mine. And actually, abundant is the word to use about the GreySheet food. People are always saying to me, "You're going to eat all that? And how do you stay that size and eat all that?" Because we actually do eat quite a lot of food. When you eliminate the sugar and the carbohydrates, the foods that we eat, we get to eat a lot of them and make them absolutely delicious, the biggest and the best. I insist on enjoying my meals. I think that's part of what has allowed me to stay abstinent for these 20 years. I wanted to talk a little bit about the program and what else I've found in the program. So I go to meetings to support my abstinence, and in those meetings I meet other compulsive eaters like myself. Some of them are anorexic, some of them are bulimic, some of them binged, some of them starved, some of them exercised compulsively, some of them were morbidly obese with many medical complications, and some of them were like normal size their whole lives, but were obsessed with food. And we all come together on the common solution that is weighing and measuring our meals 3 times a day from the GreySheet without exception and turning them over to a qualified sponsor. And because we all share that solution, I feel supported and comforted, and like I belong, like I have a family of people who understand my disease, my problem, and my solution, and that we do this together. As I said, I've traveled a lot, so I've traveled to Ireland, to England, to Scotland, to the Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Slovenia. In all of these places, I've found other people doing the GreySheet food plan and abstinent. And what a thrill to travel to Australia, for example. I went to Australia on business, and unfortunately there's only one GreySheeter in Australia, but there is a GreySheeter in Australia, and we connected while I was there. So wherever I go, there are people who understand what this program can do, the relief it can bring, the fellowship that we find in this solution. So I'm just really, I feel blessed and so grateful to be abstinent on the GreySheet food plan. And when I started, there was no website. There was no World Wide Web. Now it's so much easier to find information about the GreySheet food program. It's on the World Wide Web at www.greysheet.org. And like we said earlier, GreySheet is spelled Grey for the color, SHEET for the piece of paper that it was printed on. And it is a 12-step fellowship, so it is a program based on Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to turn it back to Sheila.
Thank you so much, Grania. I, too, love my GreySheet food and my 3 weighed and measured meals a day. I'm going to start the 12 promises as we fade out. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Thank you so much for joining us.